Continuing with the blood, so we went over the characteristics of blood, the composition, and the different parts of the blood. So before I wanted to go into the blood cells and the plasma, I wanted to talk a little bit about blood viscosity and osmolarity. So osmolarity depends on the solutes in the blood, mainly the formed elements like red blood cells, because that constitutes about 45% of the blood, and the plasma solutes, especially the um, um, albumin, okay, which is one of the proteins that is made in the blood just for to maintain osmotic pressure. Other proteins also do help in maintaining, but it's mainly the albumin. And then we have solutes like sodium, right, or potassium or chloride or bicarbonate. Even those constitute or work towards the blood osmolarity. But blood osmolarity is not the same as being viscosity, right? So viscosity is how thick is the blood. For example, if you take sodium chloride, right, you add salt to water, it mixes in water. So is it viscous? No, it's liquid, right? It's clear liquid. But is it osmotic? Yes, because the number of solutes has increased, right, per the amount of water molecules. So viscosity is just the thickness of the solutes, whereas the blood osmolarity could be because of thickness, right? Because of the red blood cells or the albumin, which are big molecules, but it could also be due to ions like sodium or chloride or bicarbonate. Though they don't contribute to the viscosity, they do contribute to osmolarity. So um, the number of RBCs and amount of plasma proteins like albumin does determine if the blood is less or more viscous, right? But having those electrolytes like sodium ions, that maintains or controls the blood osmolarity. So that's the two big difference between the two. So osmolarity, when the solutes are high, whether it is red blood cells or it is plasma proteins or it is any kind of ions, especially sodium, then the water is going to move towards the blood. And if it is low, then it is going to move out of the blood, right? So if it is hyperosmotic, if it has too many solutes, water is going to come in. And if it is hyposolute or hypoosmotic, then the water is going to move out of the blood. So blood osmolarity is directly linked to blood volume, right? And then, of course, any solute which contributes to this, to the blood osmolarity, is going to contribute to the blood volume. So, for example, when a person has chronic high blood pressure, the first thing the doctor tells them is reduce your sodium intake, right, to control the blood pressure. So, increasing sodium increases the water in the blood, increasing the blood volume, and thereby increasing the blood pressure. Osmolarity of the blood is mainly attributed to sodium ions, plasma proteins, and erythrocytes. Okay, so this is really important to remember, right? So you have sodium ions, plasma proteins, and erythrocytes. Viscosity of the blood is about 4.5 to 5.5 more viscous as water, and plasma is 2 times viscous as water. So viscosity, right? We are not talking about osmolarity. This is a kid, an infant with kwashiorkor, and this is marasmus. Kwashiorkor it's similar to liver disease where the children don't get enough proteins in their diet. So the water starts because there is no proteins, enough proteins. The blood cannot have enough plasma proteins. So the liver cannot produce plasma proteins. So the water starts accumulating in the abdomen. This is called as ascites. It's very common in liver cirrhosis as well because liver doesn't have is not able to process the proteins anymore. So the blood starts to have less and less plasma proteins, and that leads to accumulation of the water in the abdominal region. So that is called as ascites. This is extreme protein deficiency where the muscles have wasted, so this baby has absolutely no muscles because they have gone through so much of protein deficiency that the muscles have started to break down. Okay, so now I'm going to go into a smear of human blood to show how a human blood looks like. So this is all plasma, and all these disc-shaped structures, those are the red blood cells, and these are the white blood cells. So there are 5 different kinds of white blood cells, which are neutrophils, lymphocytes, neutrophil again, right, monocyte, eosinophil. Okay, so you can see those red colored in the cytoplasm, the granules. Eosin means red dye. So it absorbs the red dye. So these are called as eosinophils. And then basophils, where base, okay, it's a blue base. Base is a blue dye, which is absorbed by the cytoplasmic granules, and it looks blue in color. So if you notice, phils, there is neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil. Neutrophil has purple colored granules because it absorbs both eosin and basophil. So red and blue makes it purple. But it's easier to identify them by having these multi-lobed nuclei. Okay. So neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophils, these are cells which contain cytoplasmic granules. Then we have these two, which are lymphocyte and monocytes. They do not have granules in their cytoplasm, and these are called as agranulocytes, no granules in their cytoplasm. These 3 are called as granulocytes because of the presence of the granules in their cytoplasm. And lymphocyte is characterized by this huge nucleus which almost covers the whole cell. And this is a large lymphocyte. Normally, lymphocyte is it's just about the size of a red blood cell. So it's pretty close, it's smaller. And you can make it out that this is a lymphocyte because of the size of the nucleus. Monocytes are macrophages. So some of them, they're huge. Okay, so this is the biggest of all of the white blood cells. And the nucleus is also pretty big, right? But not completely filling up the cell like we see in lymphocyte. Some of them don't even look like this. They have like amoeboid kind of structure where your plasma membrane is all wavy, right? So that has become a macrophage. So monocytes are macrophages. So this slide shows you sickle cell anemia. You can see that the red blood cells have sickled, right? And I forgot to mention one thing. So there are like these are platelets which are like fragments of cell. So here you can see a lot of platelets. All these dots here, those are platelets. All right. So basically, blood smear contains plasma, contains erythrocytes, which is the 45% of the blood. Then you have neutrophils. Here I don't see any. Here they are. Okay, so these are, but not very clear. Anyway, so we have neutrophils. Then we have basophils, eosinophils, lymphocytes, and monocytes. Okay, so this is another slide that I just wanted you guys to see. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the going by part. So let's look into erythrocytes, and I'm going to make the next slide, next video on erythrocytes. Okay.